What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team since 2020, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000, not 300,000. We just did some fact checking. 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers. As always, I like to say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. What else do I do? I'm also a featured contributor to the Indie Soup Media TV. IndieSoupMedia.tv platform. Indie Soup Media, powered by our good friend Dr. Tachi down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That is a now over 30 independent content creators network. I sit also on the advisory board, and I have edited versions of The Morning Vibe, Black Canada Talking, Primetime with Ish and Lala. I think some other things on that platform, but that's on there too. So we always love shouting out Dr. Tachi, and I have a feeling she'll be in the house sooner rather than later. So really excited. Brian may be joining us halfway through the conversation today. Not exactly sure, but let's do some role play. So housework, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Please like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And I'm looking to hit my next barrier on YouTube, 1,500 subscribers. I know way back, it seemed like I'm way back at 1,000. My next goal is to hit 1,500 subscribers. So if you are up to it and you're comfortable, please subscribe and hit the notification button on YouTube. All right. Also, to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I contribute to, please email me, dr.vibe, VIBE at the drvibeshow.com. Also, join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Please email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com.
You know, and that's what I feel like. You feel like you're the Harry Tubman of the mind.
I am.
I feel like I'm I'm one of the Harry Tubmans of intelligent Black people. Like, I want to liberate y'all from like being left behind and ignored and oblivion. No, really, the rappers get all the attention. You know, seriously, does anybody else feel this way? Like ignorant Black people, they'll be all up, getting all the headlines on the Shade Room.
Overly sexualized Black folks.
Like the twerkers and the just people that don't always represent the best of us. The diversity. Like people like Dr. Vibe. Like everybody should know about people like Dr. Vibe. Dr.
Really
Vibe he's trying to do good work for Black people. Dr. Vibe from Toronto. Good to see you, my brother. Dr. Vibe. Everybody follow Dr. Vibe. He has a great show. He's very good at what he does, and I have a lot of respect for him. The men who are also doing the same thing. I see Dr. Vibe in here. He's a great brother. Everybody should follow Dr. Vibe, by the way. He's a smart brother in Canada, and we need to follow smart people. So follow Dr. Vibe if you see him in the chat. And Dr. Vibe, say your name in the chat so people can see you. I want you to click on his name, and I want you to go follow him, please, because I want these men and women that are doing the right things to get the support they deserve. Hey, Dr. Vibe, how you doing, brother? Again, like I always do, I got to say everybody should go follow Dr. Vibe. He's got a great show. Dr. Vibe, I know Dr. Vibe's got a kingdom because I see your channel. I see you pouring into that every day. Everybody should follow Dr. Vibe, by the way. Look him up, Dr. Vibe, VIBE. He's a great friend of me and my wife, and I love this guy.
Okay, so let me hop into this. What's up, Dr. Vibe? How you doing? Everybody, if you see Dr. Vibe in the chat, everybody go follow the Dr. Vibe show. Dr. Vibe is a real smart brother and a good human being. I like the guy a lot, and he's very intelligent. And I think everyone should pay attention to what he's got going on. We got to shine the spotlight on the intelligent Black people out here that are really doing the good work. Don't just pay attention to the rappers and the celebrities. A lot of these people are losers. Your true winners are your people in your community that are really having your back. Helping us to have stronger families and a stronger community. So Dr. Vibe is in that category. So you might see the Dr. Vibe show in this chat. If you see him, please go follow him. Okay. All right. So anyway.
So our first conversation in the series of Black Belt conversations is going to be about retirement. Gentlemen, where do you want to start? I also have a lot of questions, but who wants to start in regards to this conversation? Or I can put a question out there.
Well, let me just set the table with a few statistics, and you guys can pipe in. First of all, people in their You know, honestly, in Canada, when you're born, you need to start thinking about your retirement, but most people don't. The Gen Zs and the millennials may be thinking about it, but they're still more focused on asset accumulation. They're looking to buy houses. They're looking to max out their TFSA. They're investing in stocks. They're doing their crypto. They're hustling. They're just getting their skills together. They're finishing school. They're paying back student loans. They're getting all those things done. So that generation of cohort, you know, they're buying cars so they can get to and from work and trying to find places to rent at a fair price. So they're not thinking about retirement. The generation just ahead of them, which is my generation, these people have their houses, they have their mortgages, they have their kids going through school, they're paying for braces, right? They're paying for tutors. They have 1 or 2 cars. They have every activity known to man: gymnastics, dance, swimming, basketball, track and field, tennis, volleyball, drop them off, pick them up. It's insane. You know, every day you know what you're doing. And if you have more than 2 children, well, listen, now you need two of you, one car going one direction, the other car going in another direction. And then you have to have somebody to take the 3rd child to wherever they have to go. Then the cohort just above me, the boomers, they are now retiring and have started to retire. These folks born between 1946 and 1964, these folks now are at, some of them have already been retired since 2011. The 1946 have been retired since 2011, and the last of them is going to come through by 2031. So we're almost 5 years before the last of the boomers is going to be retiring. This group here has the most amount of wealth known to man. They got everything cheap. They're buying houses on the Danforth for a bag of Doritos. Okay, they're buying cars for $3,000, Toyotas. These folks here have created a bubble. And if you read the book Boom Bust Echo, or The Pig and the Python, it talked about this generation. And anyone who attached their career to this generation basically has won. McDonald's created fast food for this generation. Mattel and Tonka and Hasbro made all the G.I. Joes and the Barbies and all that for this generation. Everything you see, discotheques for this generation. Single person, 1-bedroom apartments in Toronto for this generation when they were moving out. Where I live in Mississauga, created by that generation. All things that you see happening in Canada have been created and maintained for this generation. Now this generation is saying, deuces, we're out. And how they exit, and the generation before them, which is my father and your father's generation, that generation born before World War II, that generation had some money, but that generation learned something. That generation went through something called the Great Depression. Because they went through the Great Depression, that generation did not spend money unless they absolutely had to. So they bought their houses with 25% down payments. That generation, credit cards, they're like, if I don't have the money, I'm not buying it. The boomers don't have that. So we have more boomers than we have that generation before us. That generation is now transitioning, as my parents already have, and many of you, your parents are going through that right now. But the largest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind is happening right now. And if you don't know what you're doing, as Russell Peters' father would say, somebody going to get hurt real bad. Back to you, Dr. Vai.
All right. Ray, let me ask, with your background in mortgage and the clients you deal with, how many of them, if any, are talking about retirement?
Before I answer your question, let me go back to Wayne's brilliant intro as usual. I'm a boomer, born 64. And what Wayne said is so true. My first house was $169,000 in Mississauga. My first car was $5,000. I was 3.5 years old. So we managed to do a lot of things that a lot of the current generations are never going to be able to do unless we transfer that money to them. I saw some stats yesterday that said 1 in 3 women over the age of between 55 and 64 have no retirement savings. No, this is not Black women.
Wow.
Italian women. This is 1 in 5 women over the age of 50, between the age of 55 and 64, have no retirement. And that was done by the Healthcare of Ontario pension plan. So
Wow.
I put some weight in the numbers they're talking about. You and I also both know, gentlemen, that a large amount of our Black women are healthcare workers. So that has a lot to say that women have spent 30 and 40 years in healthcare profession in Canada and Ontario, but they have no retirement savings, which is a tragedy, because we've got a lot of women who are single, elderly single, because of the migration policies back in the 70s when they were coming here as healthcare workers and caregivers, and the husbands didn't come with them most of the time. We also have a large amount of women who are being divorced in their 50s and 60s. So even those women who are, even though those families have created some kind of wealth, we had marital breakdown in the latter parts of the years. So I've seen a lot of stuff over the time. So to answer your question, Dr. Bai, it's a tragedy. Simply put, it's a tragedy. We've got most of our money in real estate. Our home is our only saving. The challenge is most people don't understand how to leverage it. So they're not taking advantage of the equity buildup to fund their later years in life. And whether that means retiring in a smaller community, downsizing and retiring in a smaller home, or downsizing and retiring into a smaller condo. Those are the limitations that I've seen over my 25 years. And I can share many anecdotal references, as we go along our conversation.
Stuff. Wayne, I'll come back to you if you want to add on. Well, I have a number of conversation points, and also if you're watching live, pump the questions in. But Wayne, you want to continue?
Yes. We have a proclivity towards single parenthood in our community, which is more the norm than the exception. And because of this, we have our women taking the economic burden almost from the time they're adults. They kind of know they have to train themselves that, hey, if I'm going to be taken care of in my life, it's up to me. No one's coming to help me. No one's coming to save me. So I better go out and get a good education and make sure I have enough money to take care of myself. Should I be blessed to have a union and have a relationship that will last? Great. That's additive. But the women are focused on making sure they can take care of themselves, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. I think a lot of there's a difference between males and men. That's time for another show. And I think a lot of women are attached to males, and males can barely take care of themselves, let alone take care of a family. Whereas a man will take care of himself, take care of his wife, and take care of his children, and want to do it. He doesn't see it as a burden. He sees it as a responsibility. I couldn't wait to be a husband and father. I was like, boy, wait till I get in there. And, in August, it'll be 32 years that Angie and I have been married. And I'm like, we have a cohort of people who are just like us. But we also have many, many friends who are out there in various degrees of singlehood. And the burden in this town, I'm talking about GTA in general, is very high. And if you're going to be by yourself, you better be bringing it. If you're going to live within, Oshawa to as far as Hamilton, as far north as Barrie, if you're going to be in that little triangle, you better be bringing the economic heat, because it's no joke here. It's as high as it gets in the country. Vancouver and us battling for which is going to be the worst. But I can tell you, people in this place are spending over 50% of their income just to get by. Now, working full time, 50% plus today. So what's going to happen when you retire and your income drops? So we're going to talk about that.
What unique financial challenges do Black individuals and families face when planning for retirement? Or maybe both you can chime in on that.
Yeah, let me speak to this first. You're going to need about 4% of if your income is $40,000 a year, let's say $50,000 a year, and you want to retire on 75% of that money, you need to have over $1 million to generate 4% return, which is $40,000 a year in savings. So I'm out there, as my daughter would say, Dad, you're out there in those streets. I say, I'm out there in those streets. I'm talking to people, and they're nowhere near $1 million. Why? Because they believe in two mechanisms that have been in place for a number of years, but haven't really reflected the realities of life. And the two mechanisms in place are provided by the federal government. The first one is Canada Pension Plan. I'm speaking for the Canadians now. In America, you guys have your Social Security, and we have something called Old Age Security, OAS. Well, those two things combined are just shy of $2,000 a month, supposedly indexed to inflation, but it's indexed to proposed inflation, not indexed to reality inflation. So therefore, if inflation is 2-3%, according to the Bank of Canada, that's what your OAS and CPP is tied to. But guess what? Just the other day, and Ray can attest to this, the rate of inflation was 8%. I know CPP didn't go up by 8%, and I know OAS didn't either. Therefore, you're going to be upside down. If the average one bedroom in Toronto and Vancouver, I'll use those as the two most expensive. Everything else is less expensive than that. If the average one bedroom is between $2,200 and $2,700 a month, before you turn on a light, okay? Before you pay for your cell phone, before you pay for internet, before you shop for clothes for 4 seasons, maybe 3 in Vancouver, and before you buy food, you're $700 in the hole. That's assuming you maxed it out between 18 and when you retired. So you're already upside down, and most people don't seem to understand this, that if you're going to be in the especially in Dr. Vibe show, we see a lot of people come in here and, I'm a content creator, I'm a this, I'm a that. I'm self-employed. Well, then you're not paying into CPP and you're not paying into OAS. So you have even less money. So your work to you die ratio goes up if you're going to be part of the gig economy and you're not doing what the squirrels have been telling you to do for years. But you need to go find those acorns now. Today is the summer solstice. Right? First day of summer. You need to be out there getting the acorns now because winter is coming. A little Game of Thrones there. Go ahead, Dr. Ryan. Is he frozen or am I frozen?
I'm good.
I think Vibe took a pause on us.
No,
Okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
He's digesting your comments, Wade.
I know I'm good.
I like the acorn analogy. I mean, that's so very important. It may sound very simple, I sometimes don't watch my squirrels run across the deck every day. They're a little annoying at times because they make a lot of noise.
Yes.
But yeah, they're doing what they need to do. But you're so very correct. The CPP and Homeland Security has given many Black and Korean people in Toronto this false sense of security. And most of them haven't spent the time to understand the concept of inflation and cost of living and today's dollars versus future dollars. And because most of us again are immigrants or came from immigrant families, many of us are not going to get the maximum benefit. I mean, I turned 60 this year. Before I left Toronto a few months ago, I had my government sent me the whole CPP benefit letter and that kind of stuff. I didn't even look at it. Because that was not part of my retirement plan. That is bonus money for me, right? Will I take it early? Will I take it late? I've got to look at the numbers, see how it affects my tax brackets, and that sort of stuff. And then I'll decide, okay, let me take this money because I cannot put this money somewhere else and make more money, right?
Come check your boy. Come check your boy, Ray.
Most people are going to tell you, I want to wait as long as possible to take this, mine might be $1,500 or something like that a month. But no, let me take it now. I need no money because we're in an economy in both in the US and in Canada where there's great opportunity. Anytime there's chaos, there's opportunity. There's political chaos, there's economic chaos, and you can't be fearful. And we have to now step out and speak to advisors. You got to speak to Wayne Harris. You got to speak to Ted Evans. You got to speak to all the guys who are the mortgage guys. You got to go speak to Stefan because what they're seeing is things that are happening that the average person is not seeing. One of the biggest challenges that we face is this access to information 24/7 at the click of a button. And I tell people all the time, it's one of the things that has cost us more because now everybody is an authority on every single subject. And they're not going to get the advice. My car bulb in my car is out. My neighbor said, it's an easy fix. No, he has technical skills. What they can do to the car is drive it, put gas in it, and put air in the tires. I am not going to attempt to change a bulb in my car. I'm going to pay somebody $200 an hour to do that for me. We have to go and get the advice. You've got to sit down with somebody, spend that 45 minutes, let them understand what your family goals are. You know, what you may have a child who's going to be dependent for the rest of their life, but the child is disabled. If I don't sit down and speak to you, those things aren't going to count in conversation. If you've got a disabled child, you've got a dependent until the day you die. And you've got to make a lot of provision for that child when you die, right? And you have got to make arrangements with their siblings or somebody to take care of them after you die. But we have to get into the habit of going to the advisors for advice. The do it by myself way of doing things approach is not going to work for most of us. And I'm a self-directed type of investor, but I came from a banking investment background. And even then, I still will speak to people to get a better sense of what's happening in the markets. I am not in this. I am not an active stock investor. I don't know which companies are paying better dividends. I don't know which companies got some kind of merger coming up. I don't know because I'm not in that space all the time. But I've got hundreds of people who are in that space. You know, so I'm going to say that again. You've got to get the advisors. You've got to get a financial advisor on board with you. You've got to get an estate lawyer, and you've got to get a mortgage planner because you know we had a 25 bips drop in mortgage rates a couple weeks ago. And everybody's excited. Well, if you've got a fixed rate mortgage, it doesn't affect you. So why are you excited? And have you been able to quantify the real savings based on your $700,000 about that 0.25% drop in 202? It's probably less than $800 a year. But you're excited. So the information is there, but understanding the information and putting it into context is what we have to work on doing. And you've got to find the folks who understand it and are in the trenches doing the work to put it in context for you.
Want to come to Ray saying, what should individuals consider when deciding on whether to pay off their mortgage before retirement?
Well, I mean, everybody's different. And you have to know what your long-term retirement goals are. The bigger question is, are you a two-income household or a two-person household or a single-person household? Because that's going to determine what your plan is. So if you've got a spouse who has a decent pension coming in, right? It could make sense, you know. But the way I look at it, the house is always going to cost you money. Right? It's never going to stop costing you money. If you had a house for 35 years, you're a homeowner, then you know you're pumping tens of thousands of dollars into that property every year in maintenance. My advice to clients who are looking to retire more comfortably is to, when you get to around 55 or just before you get to 60, then you can still qualify for a mortgage. But remember, your monthly mortgage payment doesn't reduce as your mortgage amount reduces. Here in Canada, we've got term mortgages, 1 to 10 year terms, so 6 to 10 year terms. So depending on your contract, every year or every 6 months, or every 3 or every 5 or every 10 years, 7 years, your mortgage renews, right? And the new contract is determined based on your current interest rates, etc. In the US, you guys have 15, 25, and 30-year mortgages. So once you get a mortgage in the US, a 25-year mortgage at a good rate, there's no real need to go back and look at that product again unless you plan to refinance it and pay the equity of your home. So here, we come up with this, we have this contract every few years. Your mortgage is going down, but your payments are not, because we're trying to pay off this mortgage between 25 to 30 years. If you've got a home you bought and you refinance it, you've got a few $100,000 against it, you're now close to 60. You're at your highest earning capacity, right? What my suggestion is sit down with somebody, financial advisors and mortgage advisor, and figure out how you can leverage your home to finance your retirement. So we know what homes are worth in Toronto. You know, they're all above $1 million. If you bought a home in the 90s, you probably bought between $150,000 and $220,000. If you paid your mortgage responsibly and managed your debt responsibly, you probably got a $70,000 mortgage. Now you've been paying probably $1,800 a month for the last 25 years, comfortably, give or take a few $100s, depending on the interest rate. My recommendation to you is sit down, do a household budget, refinance your mortgage while you can still qualify based on your income and your credit score in your home. Push the amortization back as far as possible, 30 years if possible, right? Because you have this huge boom, this huge bag of gold that's sitting in your home. Keep your payment at $1,800 or less and take as much cash as you can out of your real estate. Call somebody who is a financial advisor, whether they're investing in seg funds, mutual funds, stock market, or whatever you're doing. Sit down with them, put together a plan that works based on your risk tolerance and leverage the equity in your home. The challenge is most folks don't understand that process. They're scared shitless, pardon my language, and they end up retiring in a very uncomfortable situation. Like my school teacher client who's 78 years old and is still a substitute teacher.
Yep.
Anything you want to add on to that, Wayne?
Yeah, right now I'm meeting. So case in point, there's a lady, late 60s. She inherited a home from her mother. She's the only child. After paying off the debts and paying off whatever taxes she had to pay, she paid about $200,000. She then turned around and went and bought her house cash for $1.4 million. I went, wow. I didn't know what to say.
Dumb and dumber.
And then I was talking to her and she's like, yeah, so now the house needs repairs and I have no money. And now she's renting out a room and trying to get some rent, and her income has gone to almost just her CPP and her OAS. She had very little savings. But this lady could have been living like a queen and traveling the world if she understood leverage. She understood what Ray and I understand. She would put down enough money to make sure that her mortgage was about the same as what market rent would be. And she would still have a war chest of cash generating, even, understanding risk tolerance in your 60s is not what it is in your 20s. But even at a moderate risk, 5-6% on the money. Well, 5-6% on $1 million is $60,000 a year. And she wouldn't be touching the $1 million. Now, she is an only child and she has no children. So imagine, this house is here with fully loaded, mortgage free. She's done the renovations, but now it needs more. She has no money. A couple of things she can do. The bank is saying, come, we'll lend you $75,000. No problem. $75,000. Mortgage free, mortgage free rate. They're saying you can have $75,000. Why? Because you're watching her income to service the loan. Now, while she was working, her mother was alive. That's when she should have done what Ray said and go and get a maximum amount of money on the refi. And then she would be able to use that. But then she still had to service that every month. Ray has a mechanism called a reverse mortgage. And the reverse mortgage, I'm going to leave it to Ray because this is his domain. But this is a way for seniors to get access to money without having to come up and show income on a monthly basis to get that money. So Ray, I'm going to pass it to you on that.
Thank you very much. Great segue. That reverse mortgage is probably the most people have to try to understand. What a reverse mortgage is using the equity in your home to finance your lifestyle or pay off debt. And it's a product that's available for people over the age of 55, and it goes up to a certain amount of loan to value of your real estate. And some products don't require your payment at the end of the month. Some products you can make a payment if you choose to. You have the option of taking all the money in cash, or you take it as a monthly trip. You take a monthly income for the rest of your life. The premise is based on two things: that your property value will continue to increase at a certain clip going forward. And let's say 5% annually. I'm not going to get aggressive with the amount. And then your rate is easy around, with current rates, probably around 5 or 6%. So your house is increasing at basically the same value as you're being charged by the reverse mortgage company. So it's a win-win situation, right? You can now take this money out and you can buy yourself a nice condo or cottage in Barbados, Jamaica, Antigua, Grenada, and spend your winters there as opposed to trying to shovel snow when you're 70 years old in America, which I think is ludicrous for anybody born in the Caribbean. If you're born in the Caribbean, you have no reason to be shoveling snow at 70 anywhere in Canada, right? In my opinion, you failed miserably. There's many other options for us, right? So it's a very simple product. And I mean, when we first started offering the product, we got a lot of pushback from clients. I mean, the first deal my son did, it took him 2 years to close it. And this was a white family. The husband subsequently died. And that's the other thing. If one spouse dies, the lender is not calling your mortgage. But at 70 years old, if your spouse passes away, you don't get a phone call from RBC, CIBC, or Bank of Montreal telling you we need you to requalify for this mortgage. So your better options going on the reverse mortgage route, right? Today, we have clients calling us to do reverse mortgages, and many of those clients are black clients and Caribbean clients. Why? Because the best referral we have is word of mouth. And after we've helped the first homeowner who was in her 60s get one, she told all of her friends about this amazing product. So, you know, whether you call myself or call a mortgage advisor, if you're heading towards, if you're in your 60s and you sit in this home that is worth, you know, 1.2, 1.3 million dollars with a very small mortgage, and your only income is a very meager government pension, even if you have a company pension, because most of these company pensions are still below $3,000 a month, right? Your better option is to sit down and see whether it fits your needs. The other using a reverse mortgage, and one I prefer, my primary reason for recommending to my clients is giving your children and your grandchildren their inheritance early. Because the best way to make money is with time. So if I'm 65 years old, my house is free and clear, and I've got 2 grandkids, you know, I am better off, and my kids, right? And my kids also. I can now take out $500,000 out of the home, give it to my children and their grandchildren, and now they now create their wealth stream with that money. Instead of waiting until I'm 95 years old, they're now close to 70 and collecting their inheritance when they might not even need it as much. Because the time when you need money as a young family, as Wayne knows, when your children are younger, you know. So there's lots of reasons for it. But yeah, I mean, we have to really sit back and think what we're doing. And as Wayne said earlier, you've got to move. You know, we have a very efficient transit system in Ontario. The GO train goes almost every part of Ontario. Now you can jump on the GO train from Niagara Falls to Toronto in 45 minutes or an hour. So there's no reason not to move out of the GTA. The GTA is one of the most expensive enclaves in the world when it comes to real estate. Property in Toronto costs more than properties in New York City, right? So I don't understand why immigrant Caribbean families are tied to living in Toronto. Even if you don't want to go back to the Caribbean for whatever reason, you know, lack of infrastructure, you know, whatever reason you can come up with, you can move out to Grimsby, out to Niagara Falls, out to Port Hope, out to Belleville, and you know, you've got much larger lots, much more space. You can do your garden in your backyard, and that will probably improve your quality of life instead of being tied into a city that you have not too much to do because it's too expensive to do anything. And then look at the options and just speak to somebody.
I couldn't agree more. I'm telling you that the real estate, I'm all for it. But the mistake people make is when they buy their first house, they buy their first house as a single family home. If I could tell anybody, if you're going to buy a single family home, it better have a basement with a separate entrance with where you could put a legal basement. Now, Ray and I had this conversation offline. If I'm going to rent in Ontario, listen, I don't even know how bulletproof that lease has to be for me to rent to someone. Your credit check and your criminal background check. Listen, I'm inspecting you in ways that you don't want to be inspected for you to rent from me, because the amount of rent and pay two first and last and never pay again in this province, I'm not about it. Again, Russell Peters, somebody gonna get hurt real bad. I don't want to be in that situation where I'm looking at you and you're looking at me in my house and you're not paying any rent. All we hear is the stories on the news where people are coming and renting people's places, paying first and last and never paying again, and waiting for the landlord tenant board to solve a problem that they could solve while they save money because they're professional renters who do not pay their rent. And these people are out there hurting family. I mean, the story was of the lady, the couple in Brampton, right? This guy had a $1,000 a month truck and he's living in her house. She want to move back in her house. She can't move back into her house. And this guy's not paying rent. He said, we'll see what the landlord tenant board decides. We'll see. And if they tell me I have to go, I have to go. All the while he does not pay rent. All the while he's living in their home. It's bizarre. This is why Ray and I were talking about landlord favorable geographies, landlord favorable jurisdictions. I was a renter for a long time in my life, but I was a good renter. I paid my rent. And I did not damage the place. So when I became a landlord, I hope the tenants would do the same to me. Some did, some didn't. Because I had a lady live here with me 6 months and she didn't pay no rent. And then she told me, move your car. I moved my car. I was about to verbally drape her up. And she said, move your car, I'm moving out. I said, what? I ran outside, moved my car, and she backed the truck up and she took her stuff and left. I went downstairs to see if there was any time bombs. No time bombs. We cleaned that place up and we said, never again. Done. And then a brethren of mine said, I'm going through some things. I need a spot. And I'm like, I'll hook you up because you're my brethren. But other than that, I'm out of the landlord game. It's over for me. I've been scared straight, Ray. I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate your position. I mean, we all know that Ontario is not a landlord-friendly jurisdiction, and people are going into being landlords blindly, without understanding the what they're up against if something goes wrong. I can tell you tons of horror stories. People destroy people's homes, and dogs eating the whole frame of the door, and that kind of stuff. But I mean, there are many other places where it's easier and profitable. But for me, what I want to see us doing is start looking at the Caribbean as part of our retirement. And there's an opportunity there. It's a much more relaxed lifestyle. You got much better weather. Some guys have the occasional hurricane, but I mean, a lot of homes are built in a way where there's very minimal damage to your home. With the right hurricane insurance, you can offset those costs if there's damage. You've got much more frequent flights in and out of most of the Caribbean islands today, coming back to any part of North America or to London, and if you have any listeners from the UK on our conversation, and start to use that as part of our retirement plan. One of my first clients back in the early 2000s, I recommended him. He traveled to Jamaica very frequently. He had a very successful business in Toronto. And he came to me and he says he wants to buy a home in Jamaica because he spends a lot of time there. At the time, he spent about 3 months a year in Jamaica. And we found a nice little place with about 65,000 US at the time. Did a quick refi in his home, and he bought that place cash. And 20 years later, he always thanked me. And this is a very simple man. This is a man who had, very basic education, but he was intelligent, and, we use the word financial IQ very, very common today in our conversations. Understanding money and understanding risk is very, very important for us. I was speaking to my aunt a few days ago, and I told her, I said, the more educated the client is, the more challenging it is to deal with them, because they think they're an authority on every single subject. And I find the simpler clients, whether they're from the Caribbean or parts of Africa, they tend to understand the advice more, because they don't need to have a whole lot of information in their head to contradict what you're saying, and they understand numbers better. If you tell somebody, okay, you go to the Caribbean 3 times a year and stay in a hotel $300 a night, right? You do that for 10 years, I have $300,000, right? If you buy a home in Jamaica for 60 grand, it's appreciating. I mean, that house today is worth like 250,000 US. And it's nothing special. It's a very basic home. So, you've increased your net worth significantly, and you've got your own home with your eggplant and tomatoes in your backyard. When you go down there, you can, if you want to put a fowl pen in your backyard too, you do what you want. It's the Caribbean, right? And you go back to the lifestyle that many of us were accustomed to. And if you weren't born in the Caribbean, your parents or your grandparents were accustomed to. Like you guys, I spent a lot of time in Guyana. And you've been on calls where you hear that dog barking in the background, you know what I mean? Or a fowl cock crowing, right? And we have to really sit down and, not think of the Caribbean as a problem area. I mean, some of the islands aren't perfect. Yes, there's crime, but everywhere has crime of opportunity. And you've got to sit down with people who actually have been there, spent some time there, and share with you what their experience was. And then go down there and spend a month on your own. Because retiring in the GTA or in Vancouver is not going to be it. We're going to see a lot of elderly Caribbean poor people living in homes that are falling down around them that they can't afford to fix.
Morning, gents. Regarding retirement, I hear a lot about retiring from working for someone else, but not about why most people are taught about it before they even start working. He also says, wealthy people don't retire. They enjoy freedom for days, weeks, months, and even years. They don't, quote, finance their retirement, unquote. They teach their kids to be entrepreneurs, extending their businesses for generations. The focus in our community should be teaching our kids from grade school how to build their own businesses. This conversation deserves more attention. Therefore, he continues on. He's going to the focus on a 20-year-old saving money for retirement from their biweekly paycheck while working for someone else is pointless. Just my thoughts. Okay. Heather.
Go ahead.
Okay, I answer. Okay, let's address Tim. I will get back to other ones. I think some things there that need to be shared.
To Tim's point, entrepreneurship, all the rage now, social media, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody got a little side hustle, a little gig going on, all great. But there's some people are not wired to be entrepreneurs. This is not for the faint of heart. Every 2 weeks, Ray and I don't have, and you, Dr. Vibe, we don't have a check coming in from some third party that's taking care of us. Every 2 weeks, we either eat what we kill or we don't eat. And for many, that is very, very scary for a lot of people. Listen, the best feeling in the world, I thought, was knowing it was, Thursday, just got paid, Friday night, and I pay for you, bling, and it goes in my account. And off I was to live another 2 weeks within the confines of what my employer chose was enough for me. Okay, because you don't get paid what you are worth, you get paid what the job is worth, and a lot of people get upset. Now, we also know that depending on what you're doing, salary can be arbitrary and based on subjective methods like complexion, right? I've seen
that
people.
Sounds very personal, Wayne.
Excuse me?
That sounds very personal, Wayne.
Well, we're here to tell the truth, Ray. We're here to tell the truth. And what I'm saying to you is that we know, at least in the United States, where there are race-based statistics, that as you go down the color spectrum from Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes, down to someone who looks like me, the pay will drop and commensurate by skin shade if you don't know how to handle that. And that's another conversation we can have, because if you want to get paid like a white male, I'll say it, you better know what the pay is for a white male. And a lot of people don't know that there are things and there are secrets that you can learn to make sure you get paid commensurate with your experience, regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your race. You can get that salary if you know what to do and what to say. And maybe that's our next show. But getting back to Tim, entrepreneurship makes sense. I'm going to suggest to everybody, even if you are not going to go into full entrepreneurship, like just take the training wheels off the bike and ride. If you're not going to do that, that's fine. No shame in your game. You need to have a side hustle. Why? Because the side hustle is going to give you tax advantages you cannot get with a T4 in Canada, W2 in the United States. Once you go into that side hustle mode and you have a business that's generating or not generating income, you get a little thing called tax deductible expenses. And once you get into tax deductible expenses, there are things you can do. I'm not an accountant, but there are things you can do to reduce your taxable footprint, which will allow you to put more money towards your retirement and towards your investments and towards your real estate and whatever you want to do for long-term income. I'm not concerned about how much money you make. I'm concerned about how much your money is making for you. And in order for you to have money making money on the money, which is investing, you need to have the disposable income. So we need to reduce your expenses and increase your revenue. Side hustle will increase your revenue, and through taxation, reduce your expenses, which is going to create a bigger gap, allowing you to take that money and put it into the mechanism. In the United States, your Roth IRAs, your IULs, you're in Canada and your whole life insurance policies. In Canada, your whole life insurance policies, universal life policies, RSPs, TFSAs, and non-registered investment. And of course, real estate that generates income. Not just real estate you live in, real estate that generates income. This is the difference. It's an investment property, not a principal residence. And a principal residence can be an investment property if you play it properly. And this is where Ray comes in. All right.
All right. I also want you to, from the time I met Ray, he's always talked about getting out of the GTA. Why are people wanting to focus on the GTA? And this I wanted to get Ray and maybe also your comments, Wayne, on Drea Rich saying, I think one of the reasons for remaining in the GTA is the lack of diversity in some other cities. Yes, there are Black people in some places, but the numbers still seem to be scarce.
Well, I agree with all of what Wayne just said. And I mean, not everybody's an entrepreneur. It's a long and lonely journey, very painful at times. It can cost you a lot. It can cost your family. It can cost you, with your children, because you're out there grinding. And I don't like to use the word grind. You're out there doing what you're doing. If you don't put a structure to your life, probably 24/7. I had to develop a structure in my life. I mean, I'm 20. I started out in '94. First of all, I had a 2-year hiatus and came back in '99. So I've got about 28 years of working for myself. But I structured my schedule around my children's lives. So I never missed any of the school events. I went to every single school concert. I went to every single basketball game and that sort of stuff. But my parents knew that, when my kids were younger, that, my appointments were built around my children's schedule. I worked from 10 to 3 on Saturdays. I never turned on my computer on a Sunday, and I still don't. If you email me on a Sunday, you're not going to respond to them Monday morning. And I've maintained those. But it's lonely, I'm fortunate. I've got 2 kids who've gone into the entrepreneurial realm, and every day I speak to them and I let them know that I can hear the pain in their voices. You wonder if you're doing the right thing. Because they're young. They're one is 32 and one is 30. But my daughter, your grad, has a great job. And I think we put too much pressure on young people to create their own destiny. I saw a colleague a few days ago, and he was telling me about, his daughter is so strong, he wants her to go out there and build this and build that and build that and create the world. And my response is, that's all well and good. My wish to my daughter is to marry a good husband. I don't care whether she can go out there and conquer the world, because I mean, it's a tough place for a woman to be. And I know it's going to sound very, very sexist, and there'll be a lot of pushback from women in my audience. But women in my family were all highly educated, but they were also all married. So I'm not interested in my daughter going out there recently with a sledgehammer, trying to win in a very, very tough space. I wanted to find herself a nice husband and give me a couple of grandchildren. Perhaps I've got a very, very selfish motivation. But I mean, that's just my opinion. And if you agree or disagree, I really don't care. But coming back to the GTA and moving, I think the whole thing about all this stuff about the GTA being the center and hub of Caribbean life is a bunch of baloney. I've spent time in Montreal, spent time in Ottawa, spent time in Barrie, spent a lot of time in Hamilton, Windsor. How much Caribbean stuff do you actually need in your day-to-day existence as a Black person? I can't remember the last time I went to a Caribbean restaurant. I cook my own food, and I can find whatever I want in most stores. You know what I mean? Hamilton had a very healthy Black presence. When I did the research, the Black population in Hamilton was like 1.4%. right? I've gone to several black functions in Hamilton when Lincoln Alexander was alive. I used to go there very frequently, even in the heart of winter. I spent a lot of time in Barrie also, where I found very nice Caribbean spots in Barrie. I'm talking 25 years ago, long before the Buy Blacks Restaurant Week. So I am always confused and perturbed when I hear people say, well, I don't want to leave the GTA because, there's no black people in these other neighborhoods. Well, I lived in Meadowville back in the 90s, and I was the only black person in most of Meadowville. I don't really care whether there's black people living around me. What I care about is a safe environment for my family, where I can raise my kids and have access to the things I need. And if you need to make sure you get your jerk sauce and your peppers and stuff, then take a once-monthly trip into the city, pack your stuff up, and head back out to Picton or Belleville or wherever, and live your nice 60-foot frontage home, or half-acre lot, and enjoy your life. It's just a different life. It's also a healthier lifestyle for many young children, because if you've got both parents working in the GTA, your children are housebound most of the time. It's very unhealthy for them. Hence the reason you have all these mental health issues today with a lot of our younger children, younger adults, because they spent their entire lives either being chaperoned by parents or locked up in a home. But if you live in a more rural, relaxed environment, your kids are outside, learn to do regular stuff, like learn to throw a fishing rod, learn to ride a motorcycle, and things that normal young men, which is my experience as a child growing up in the Caribbean, was. So I will always debate the whole staying in the GTA because everything I need is in the GTA. I mean, if you say you can't find a job outside of the GTA, then finding your profession, that might be a challenge. But if, as I said, most of us are in healthcare or some sort of self-employment, if you're a truck driver, then you shouldn't be living in the GTA because it's cheap to go and buy a home up in Erin where you can park your truck very comfortably in your own backyard, as opposed to having to pay somebody to park your rig. So I mean, look at it with a different perspective and see exactly how it fits into your long-term goal. Because I mean, $1.8 million for a house in the GTA versus $500,000 in Windsor, that's a big difference.
Was one other thing though that Minian Camp said a way back about people, something about people who are like lifelong renters.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see it, but do you have any comments on that, gentlemen? Lifelong renters.
Yeah. So when you're a lifelong renter, you don't have any equity. If you don't have any equity, you're at the mercy of your landlord and the rental increases that they can bring to you. So if you're lucky enough to have a low rent, not rent controlled, but you're in a building where you can control the downside and you're not under any stipulations on what you can earn, this is where you can use that fixed cost of rent and you can load up on your investments in the right buckets. Remember, there's 3 buckets we have right now. 2 are tax free, and 1's tax free and 2 are tax deferred. So tax deferred means you don't pay tax now, you pay tax later. This is the first time homeowner savings account in Canada. This is the RRSP in Canada, and the tax-free savings account is tax-free. If I'm a renter and I do not have any stipulations from the government that I cannot save, I'm maxing out the tax-free savings account. Everybody on here, if you're in Canada and you make more than minimum wage, even if you do make minimum wage, but if you have any money left over, you want to stack the tax-free savings account because you're in total control of that account versus having to put money in and get a little tax rebate from the government and then the government forcing you to take money out whether you need it or not at age 71. That boomeranging of the RRSP, if you're not making over $80,000 a year, honestly, probably not in your best interest. Tax-free savings account in Canada, Roth IRA in the United States. Here's what I'm going to say. Last point. A lot of people have life. We all have life, right? But that means you have time, but you may not have money. Then a lot of people have style. These are the professionals. They're out there working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They have money, but they have no time. What we're trying to do is create, between Ray and I and Dr. Vibe, lifestyle, where you got time and money. Ray had time and the ability to go and watch his kids do what they had to do. That's lifestyle.
All right. Huge conversation today, everyone. Epic. you better catch a replay. Even if you caught it live, I would advise you catch a replay too. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So let's get everything going here. So we got a long, and thanks to everyone who watched this live, especially, and also on the replay. So let's do a little things here. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Also, special ask, if you're not following me on YouTube, please subscribe. I want to get to 1,500 subscribers. Next up, to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I appear on, please email me dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. Join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Email me dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. Again, catch replays on many places, including Indie Soup Media. Live tomorrow night, primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala will be Lala Key and special guest Dr. Tachi. Also this Sunday, Black Canada Talking with Cesar Nadima Musa and myself. Coming up on this Monday show, we're going to be asking, do blacks, that's wrongly worded, do blacks have the, let me just correct that. Let me correct that because I don't like the way I put that. So do that in real life. There we go. Let's correct that. Let's do that. Say this, do blacks have the ability to solve our problems? And then the second part, have blacks shown the ability to solve our problems? All right. So other than that, Ryan O'Neill Knight for Ryan, LinkedIn, Ryan O'Neill Knight, Instagram at Ryan.Knight99, and email work with me at RyanO'NeillKnight.com. And the places you can get a hold of me, website, the dr.vibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, the Dr. Vibe Show, Instagram at the Dr. Vibe Show, that's THEDRVIBESHOW, X/Twitter at DRVIBESHOW, and email dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. And finally, we'll do it really quick. You can watch replays of this show on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, Afro-Caribbean Business Network, Facebook and YouTube, and then finally, Ryan O'Neill Knight, YouTube and LinkedIn. All right. So as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time. Manage your energy. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith. Walk good. And remember, subscribe, share, tell other people about us. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith and walk good.